I'm back with another video today. It feels like a really long time since I've done this. I think it's maybe been 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't necessarily had any ideas to record, and I've also been way too busy. I've sort of been toying around with a few ideas, but then I was sat here this morning, and if you're into Life is Strange, you'll know that the prequel has come out. And it's not that I'm obsessed with the prequel so much, it's just that during this past week I've had so many discussions with people about this game and about the original, and it's made me realise that I think Life is Strange is my favourite game, and I think that 30 years from now I'm going to look back on it and it'll be the game that sort of represents my youth and my teenage years and my early adulthood years. And I think I'm going to remember it forever because it's been 2 years now, and I find that I still talk to people about this game all the fucking time. All the time. And I don't know about you, but I think the way that I'm gauging my favourite media and my favourite games at the moment is by how much I talk about it. And I still talk about Life is Strange so much. I love The Last of Us, I love Journey, but I talk about Life is Strange the most. I want to do a speed paint today. I might draw Max, I might draw Chloe, I might draw them both together. But whilst I do, I'm going to talk to you about this game if you've never played it, and I'm going to try and convince you to play it. And if you have played it and you love it like me, then I want this to be a thing that you can watch and look back on and think, yeah, oh my god, these are all the reasons why I love this game. Right, let's just assume that you've heard of Life is Strange, and you probably think, oh, this is like twee, kitsch, try hard, hipster, coloured hair girl bullshit. And you're like, this sounds stupid and try hard, non-conformist just for the sake of it, and I'm not gonna play it. The thing about Life is Strange that 1 makes it an amazing game and 2 makes it a fucking curveball is that the game that it sells itself as is not the game that it is. And with Life is Strange, like any good story, you have what's going on the surface level, but that's not the real story. And the real story is underlying and far darker and really disturbing and really interesting and plays into so many massive social issues, like to do with consent, slut shaming, art, what can we consider to be art, the fetishization of youth and young women, and the way that culture puts youth and innocence on this pedestal. It's like a critique and a journey into all these themes that are so important. It's not the twee Tumblr hipster game that you think it is. On the surface, yeah, there is this like delightfully cringy youth dialogue going on, and I can totally understand that would put some people off. But as you play the game and as you continue, you actually find that the really cringy lines and this slightly off-kilter writing is what makes the game so enjoyable. And also I think it's important to bear in mind that the original script was written in French, converted by another writer into English, so lots of stuff has been lost in translation, and lots of the jokes or the pop culture references are slightly off kilter because of the way that just language works. And also the game was produced by a predominantly French studio, so you've got to appreciate that this game is about American girls, but it's made by French people and they're trying their best. And if you look past the cringe dialogue, it's such a beautiful game. First of all, I'm going to talk about it's a young, gay, women, time-travelling story, and if that doesn't make your loins tingle, what the fuck is wrong with you? I didn't know I was thirsting for like queer, female, artsy time travelers, but I am. And I think a lot of people will enjoy this game if they actually give it a chance past the first episode. Basically, what a lot of people don't seem to get if they haven't played the whole game is that they don't go into a lot of detail about the time rewinding mechanic, because the time rewinding mechanic is like an allegory for Max's personality and the struggles that she faces in her life at that point. Max is a person that is obsessed with the past, with her relationship with Chloe from 5 years ago, with analog instead of digital cameras. she is a nostalgic person who you can imagine constantly replays the things that she's done in her head and wishes she could go back to change them. That's what she wants. She's like most of us heading into like young adulthood. She wants to keep that childhood innocence and carefreeness, and she wants to keep it, but the whole point of the game is that she discovers that it's not as simple as that, and that you can't keep reliving the past, and that you will have to become an adult at one point or another. I feel like that's the crux of the game. It's a coming of age story like Stand By Me, which is also really good. And also at the core of it is her relationship with Chloe. She's rekindling an old friendship from when she was 13, 14. And in the beginning, it's awkward and it's difficult because Chloe's father got hit by a car and he died. And Max abandoned Chloe when Chloe absolutely needed her most. So Chloe comes across as abrasive and bitchy in the beginning, as anyone would, because her childhood best friend abandoned her. And what I love about the game is that you're A, rekindling a past relationship, and you're B, resolving all your differences, and C, getting something new and gratifying out of an old friendship. And the point of the game is their relationship, whether that be romantic, platonic, or otherwise. And what's great is that it is queer. And that's not down to fan-made stipulation, it's not down to fan theories, it is canonically queer. These characters are queer, and depending on your choices, because this is a multi-choice game, they can be in love with each other and kiss and be happy. And God, name me another fucking game where you get to play as a realistic representation of a young queer teenage girl and have a realistic gay relationship. Radio Silence, probably. You can't think of another game, can you? As like a young queer female, Life is Strange is just deeply fucking gratifying and relatable, because the girls in Life is Strange remind me of old friends and people that I've loved, and in of itself the game is nostalgic to me. I play it now as a 20-year-old and I can remember my 18-year-old self and how I felt, and how I remember when I first started playing it, I related so much to Max's naivety and her fear. That's what art's meant to be about. Art is meant to be about creating stories that are emotionally valuable and true and relate to different kinds of people, relate to everyone, not just one kind of person. That's why Life is Strange is so good on like a political and a social level. It deals with so many themes that I've never seen games deal with before, that I rarely see TV and movies deal with, and with the kind of sensitivity that Don't Nod deal with themes in Life is Strange. Just so many things that are important and I feel like need to be shown in games more. I mean, we've all played and heard of The Last of Us, and we know how prolific that's going to be in the future and how much of a classic it's going to be in the future, because it was honest and true and explored so many emotional themes, and it wasn't scared to break the dumb fucking mold of what people think video games are meant to be about. We need more games like Life is Strange and The Last of Us. I want to talk about the art for a minute. Life is Strange is so special because they put a painstaking amount of detail into the way things look and the way things feel. Their concept artist, Edward Kaplan, who I love his work. I'm so far up his ass, I can't see anything. He hand painted all the textures in the game. And if you go up to a wall, you look super closely at the wall, you can see individual brush strokes where this person's painted it. You'll find that the more things you look at and the more you examine and the more time you spend, the more gratifying Life is Strange is as an experience. You have to really want to put yourself there and put yourself into it and give it your time and give it a chance. If you just race through it going from A to B, you're not gonna get what the game is about. It's about exploration and seeing these tiny details. What I love is that every painting and every photograph in the game is drawn in a slightly semi-realistic style that is, I'll try and describe it better. You have your art style that is used for the real life objects, locations, environment, and that's slightly removed from realism. But then whenever you have a photograph or a painting or something else, they remove the art style even more a bit from realism, and I think it's just an amazing idea. You let your brain fill in the gaps. You don't have to put in an extraneous amount of detail to get the impression across. And detail is a massive thing in Life is Strange. My favourite bit of it, I think, when I played it through the first time, was investigating people's rooms and picking up all their belongings and like reading all their letters, because you can find out so much about the characters. And even though the characters look like stereotypes, they are multifaceted. What I like is don't nod, they don't patronise their audience, and they don't spoon feed you everything, and it's not obvious, usually. There are massive plot points and really important things that are hinted at from episode 1. There are some moments where, like, I went back for my second playthrough, I would get to some bits in the game and just get shivers, because I would think, shit, how did I not see this coming? Can I talk about the soundtrack? I'll talk about it super briefly, but it has the best soundtrack of licensed material anyway that I've ever heard in a game ever. They have this really great way of choosing songs that relate to the situation, but not in an explicit and obvious way. There's this tiny detail that they had where if you're in Chloe's room and you put a record on and you walk out the room, the music doesn't get quieter, it follows you. I just think it's such a tiny hint of like removing you from reality. It's as if Max is thinking of the song in her head. And I just love the way that the sound follows you through their house. I love Chloe's house. The thing that made me most emotional when I was playing the prequel the other day was being back in Chloe's house, because I realised that playing through the first game, I related to Chloe probably more than I realised. And being back in her old house, which is so detailed and so realistic and so beautifully realised, reminded me of how I felt in my old childhood home, and it just brought back so many emotions for me. And I can't think of another game that is capable of doing that by just putting me in an environment, but because Chloe's room is so detailed and human and believable, and the noises and the audio direction is great, and you can hear her mum cooking in the kitchen downstairs, it just makes me remember so many things from my own real life. And I think if you're playing Life is Strange as a first time, don't give up till you get to the end of episode 3. I know it sounds really like weird, but episodes 1 and 2 are mostly there for exposition and to begin your relationships with characters and to establish the fact that Max's time travel powers actually have the difference between life and death. People will die if you don't do the right thing, and people will live if you do a good job. That's the tone of the game. It's not just, oh shit, someone got TP'd, gotta rewind. No, that's not what they're going for. The real story and the actual plot begins to take off in episode 3, I think, especially towards the end, and you have to give it that much of a chance. You have to, like, let the writers show you what they have, and if you don't like it, then turn away. But I think that lots of people stop playing after episode 1, and it's very premature. I want to talk about the last episode, but I don't think I can without spoiling it. So I'm gonna just wrap it up and say Life is Strange is an important game. It's not perfect, but it doesn't try to be anything that it's not. It's like, yeah, we know that this is a game about young artistic female teenagers, and it's almost like the development team thought, yeah, shitty people are gonna rag on us and take the piss out of us for making a game about young women. Who gives a shit? And they went with it, and they didn't dilute any of the themes. They didn't pander to any mass audience. They thought, we want to make a cult classic as far as games go, and I think they've succeeded. I think they've made a cult classic, and I love it ardently. I love it so much. When people take risks with their art, that's when you get really amazing things created, and there's so much love and devotion in Life is Strange, and I honestly challenge you to find that much love and devotion in a AAA title, any AAA title. I think Life is Strange even has more love and detail in it than The Last of Us, and I think that's partially down to the games being two different genres. Life is Strange just has more detail. I'm not pitting the two against each other. I'm just saying that I really think Life is Strange needs to be held in the same regard as The Last of Us. I honestly think it's charming, and I love the flaws in it, and I love the foibles, and I love the bits that are lost in translation, and I love how it gently sort of guides the player towards this conclusion that in life, no matter what you do, you're going to feel like you fucked up. And you have to take responsibility for your decisions, and you can't go back and change them. And it's not even what you choose that matters, it's why you've chosen it, and take responsibility for that choice. Life is Strange and The Last of Us have very similar endings, I think. And I think maybe that's why they're both so, like, loved, and maybe why I love them so much, because both their conclusions are so fundamentally human. And even though The Last of Us isn't a multi-choice game, Joel chooses the human, selfish choice. He chooses not to sacrifice Ellie for the good of humanity because he can't take it. He makes the non-heroic choice. I think in games, a lot of the time, developers make the protagonist do the heroic thing. And my favourite games are where the developers just let it be and think, no, we're going to be true to life. And sometimes people make the selfish, human, faulted decision. And in Life is Strange, you can choose to do the same thing. Do you make the decision for the greater good and sacrifice the thing that you love most? Or do you make the selfish choice, the human choice? I think often games are seen as a genre of media rather than a platform, and all they are is a platform to create whatever you want. It's just sad that the industry favours explosions and bombast over actual emotional connection. But we're getting better, and games like Life is Strange are important for that reason. And if I ever have kids, I will be the annoying mother that's like, you're gonna play my favourite game from childhood and you might hate it. It will stand the test of time for me. I love it so much, and I want to share how much I love it with you, because it's the one thing that's been like burning in me over the past week or two. I've been burning to talk about it more, burning to sell it to people, burning for people to play it because I think it's special. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to do a nice speed paint along with this. I'll edit a lot of this out. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching. Stay appropriately gay. Fuck it. Bye.